Fine, we'll buy the top floor if that's what you want, I said. Just a second ago, my wife and I were fiercely arguing over which floor to buy in the apartment complex. In the next moment, I found myself kneeling before her. My body trembled uncontrollably, overwhelmed by a rush of emotions. My wife, Yen Qiu, had returned once more. The moment she was pounced upon and bitten by a zombie is a nightmare that has haunted me ever since. I had been reborn, sent back to just over a month ago. It was the 21st of January 2035. There were 10 days left before the zombie outbreak. At first, it was just a piece of news, something about a rabid patient escaping from a hospital in the nearby city and biting pedestrians on the street. When I saw this news on TikTok, I even remarked to Yen Qiu that it was no longer safe to walk on the streets. I wondered how, in this day and age, anyone bitten by a dog would dare skip a rabies vaccine. But within less than 3 days, things began spiraling out of control. First, I got a call from a friend in S-City telling me that the situation was dire and there were many infected. The authorities had already sealed off airports, train stations, and highways connecting to surrounding cities, prohibiting any passage. We were advised to stockpile food at home, just in case. Soon after, countless videos of infected individuals attacking pedestrians flooded social media platforms. The scenes were horrifically bloody. At that time, Yang Qiu and I drove to nearly every supermarket in City A. Everywhere was packed with people, and the shelves were stripped bare. We only managed to grab some instant noodles and a few large bottles of mineral water. Only then did the official announcement finally arrive, stating that this was a localized incident. The authorities claimed to have all areas under control and that epidemiological investigations were underway, urging everyone not to panic. But just a day later, the outbreak hit City A, and after the first few days of urging residents to stay indoors, the government began to call them zombies. With the last power outage, all official communication ceased. Yang Qiu and I survived at home for nearly a month on the instant noodles we managed to grab and whatever food was left in the house. Until, with no food left at all, after 3 days of starvation, Yang Qiu and I decided to venture out to search for food. But not long after stepping outside, we encountered a horde of zombies, and Yang Qiu and I both fell victim to them. We had bought a second-hand house, paying in full. It would only take 3 days to transfer the ownership and get the title deed. After we left the real estate agent, Yang Qiu looked at me with an expression as if she had seen a ghost. After all, I had been vehemently against buying the top floor before, listing a whole array of reasons why it was a bad idea. But she insisted on buying it simply because it came with access to the rooftop. And now, how had I suddenly changed my mind? I knew it would be impossible to keep everything a secret. After all, with the subsequent stockpiling of supplies and the renovation of our home, she would eventually notice something was amiss. So I decided to come clean and tell her everything. As I sat in the car and gravely laid out the situation, Yang Qiu was silent for about 2 or 3 minutes. Then she touched my forehead, murmuring, "No fever." She then pulled out her phone to check, and it's not April Fool's Day either. I was just about to explain further when Yang Qiu suddenly opened the car door and stepped out. What are you doing?" I thought she might think I had lost my mind and was about to call for an ambulance. She simply tossed back, "I just saw the apartment next door is up for rent. We should rent it. This way, the entire rooftop plus the top floor will be ours. I don't want to die again." It hurt a lot. The apartment building we bought was in a tower structure, 2 units per staircase. If we managed to rent the apartment opposite, we would have a huge independent space, significantly enhancing our safety. Sometimes, I have to admire how quickly my wife's mind works. In less than 10 minutes, she came out of the real estate agent's office, casually holding a contract in her hand. "Done. The apartment is managed by the agency. 1 month deposit and 1 month rent. I've got the keys." The way they looked at me, it was like I was a sucker. "Hello, Dad?" At that moment, I called my parents. In my previous life, after the zombie virus outbreak, I had never been able to reach them. Hearing my dad's voice now, my body trembled slightly. "Hey, what's up? Your mom and I are playing chess with old Ye here. Let me tell you, old Ye's no good at this. Hey, he's trying to cheat now. Can you believe he's trying to take back his move after I captured his piece?" Listening to my father's ramblings, my eyes welled up with tears. "Dad, what I'm about to tell you might sound absurd, but you must believe me." Once more, I explained the impending zombie virus outbreak and suggested they come to live with us, so we could look out for each other. "Hold on, I need to discuss this with your mom and old Ye." "Wait, Dad, you actually believe me?" I had assumed, given their age, that they'd never believe such a tale. I had rehearsed countless explanations in my mind, ready to convince them. "Of course I believe you. If I don't trust my own son, who would I trust?" There was a hint of disdain in my father's voice. "Besides, your old man grew up reading web novels, and this is straight out of one of those overused apocalypse rebirth stories, isn't it? You could even tell me you're Chen Beishou, and I'd find it plausible. Just wait, I'll call you back in a bit." I had the speaker on, and my father's words left Yang Qiu and me staring at each other in disbelief. What kind of wild talk was this? We were childhood sweethearts, both raised in a bank employee's compound. Our parents were colleagues back then. After graduating from college, we chose to work in City A, while our parents stayed in our hometown, City W. They looked after each other. Within 10 minutes, my father called back. We've talked it over, the four of us, and decided to stay in City W. It's all too rushed, and with the New Year travel rush, everywhere is congested. Who knows where we might get stuck halfway? But, Dad. I hesitated, thinking they might be worried about being a burden to us. I wanted to persuade them further but was cut off immediately. What is it, boy? Do you think we're old and frail and incapable? Let me tell you, your old man has read over 100 apocalypse novels and watched dozens of disaster movies, not to mention every episode of Bear Grylls and Survivor Man. And don't forget, we, the generation born in the 80s, have been through it all. Rare floods, century-long snowstorms, and the disasters of 2019 and 2021. Young man, experience is crucial. Exactly. Came my father-in-law's voice from the other end of the line. Listen, kid, your main task is to take care of our daughter. If she comes out of this missing an arm or a leg, remember the time in middle school when you put a toad in her backpack and I chased you down 3 streets. Hearing my father and father-in-law's banter, their tone filled with confidence and not needing our concern, I felt a mix of emotions. Though I didn't quite grasp everything they were implying, it made sense. Hometown areas were less densely populated, meaning fewer zombies and relatively more safety. After hanging up, Yan Qiu and I decided to divide our efforts. She headed to the supermarket to stock up on supplies, while I hurried to contact renovation companies to start enhancing our home's safety. I ordered 3 layers of thickened, bulletproof glass for all windows in both apartments. Every window also needed built-in security bars. Although we lived on the top floor, and the chance of zombies breaking in through the windows was slim, it was better to be safe than sorry. Moreover, after turning into zombies, people's hearing drastically improves, and bulletproof glass also serves as a sound barrier. The doors needed replacing too. The standard security doors provided by the developer were practically as thin as paper, just 2 sheets of metal. They might hold against 1 or 2 zombies, but more than that, they would be useless. Even the doors to the emergency exit required upgrading. Then there was the matter of soundproofing the entire interior and replacing all curtains. The curtains had to be completely blackout and airtight. Zombies are also drawn to light, especially at night. The glow of lights would attract them. Due to the urgency, I didn't bother with big-name renovation companies. I found a small one near our community. Price didn't matter, outrageous or not. I could relate to Yan Qiu's experience at the real estate agency. The renovation company's owner looked at me as if I were a fool with money to burn. When I asked if it could be done in a week, he thumped his chest and said he'd meet all my demands in 5 days. After taking a deposit of 50,000, he happily escorted me out of the office. Next, I went to another company to order 5 large solar panels. The installer promised they could be up and running on our rooftop within 3 days. I remembered clearly that about half a month after the zombie outbreak, the power went out, and this year's winter was exceptionally cold. Life without electricity would be tough. Before buying this place, Yang Qiu and I had been renting. Because the house next door was fully furnished, Yang Qiu and I agreed that we could go directly to that house after she was done. I drove back to clean up the things at home. Actually, there was nothing to clean up. I put away her skincare products and cosmetics, gathered her clothes and quilts, and packed up the remaining pots and pans. When I carried these things back to the new house, Yin Qiu also came back. I went directly to the supermarket and ordered all the supplies in the name of the company's annual meeting and New Year's goods. They said there were too many things and they needed to start delivering them to us tomorrow afternoon. Wash your hands and eat first, and we will check the list of goods later. Wash your hands and eat. I was stunned for a moment. You did it. I subconsciously felt that something was wrong. She couldn't cook. The only time I cooked was the day before New Year's Day the year before last, and we ended up spending the New Year's Eve in the hospital bed in the emergency room. Today, my mom sent me a bunch of videos. It was from a guy called Wang Gang. She told me to learn how to cook. So I cooked a fish. You can try it later. By the way, your dad seemed to have sent you something too. He said you didn't reply to him. I was busy all afternoon and didn't really look at my phone. When I opened my dad's WeChat, I saw 99 plus messages. All videos and files. The Walking Dead Season 15 Full HD. Train to Busan. World War Z. Even in the preview video, I saw a foreign man picking up a big fat bug and biting it, his mouth full of juice. There was also a bald man with a bare butt, holding a squashed mouse and laughing gay gay gay. At the bottom, there is a message from my father: read more, learn more, I died so miserably in my last life, I have to make up for it in this life and learn from my mistakes. Water, I have to go to the mall to buy a few water purifiers tomorrow, so that I can drink water directly. Under Yan Qiu's slightly smiling eyes, I put the last piece of fish into my mouth. Then I opened the mineral water bottle beside me and took a few gulps of water. This is really killing the salt cellar. Water, anyway, has never been cut off before I was reborn. Installing a water purifier can also ensure emergency needs. After dinner, Yan Qiu took out the list of items purchased today. See if there is anything else to buy, I will call them later to prepare the stock. I also sent a copy to my parents, and they said they would study it. Mineral water, 5 liters multiplied by 4, 30 boxes. Mixed flavor instant noodles, 24 packs, 15 boxes. Toilet paper, 40 rolls, 15 boxes. Braised pork canned food, 5 cans, 10 boxes. Canned luncheon meat, 12 cans, 10 boxes. Mixed flavor canned fruit, 3 cans, 10 boxes. Flour, 5 kilograms, 10 bags. Rice, 20 kilograms, 30 bags. Quick frozen dumplings with leek meat and corn meat, 2 kilograms, 20 bags each. Jelly, 20 packs. Char melon seeds, 20 packs. Toothpaste, 20 sticks. Electric toothbrush heads, 30. Towels. Almost everything you can think of, from oil, salt, sauce and vinegar to underwear and bedding, Yang Qiu ordered almost everything. It was also fortunate that it was the new year and he used the company's annual meeting as an excuse. Otherwise, with this amount of purchases, the police might come to check the water meter the next day. We have to go to the home appliance city to order a few freezers tomorrow. Although it's cold, we don't know how long we have to hold out. We can also buy some fresh fish and meat to freeze. We always eat canned food, which has too many preservatives. I'm afraid that I haven't turned into a zombie, but I turned into a zombie. While explaining, I watched Yang Qiu place a few more orders with the people at the supermarket warehouse. As for medicines, this is more difficult. I can't buy too many things at one time. I can only go to more pharmacies these days and buy less at a time. I'll see how much I can buy. Anti-inflammatory drugs, antidiarrheal drugs and analgesics are the main ones, as well as quick-acting heart-saving pills. To be honest, Yang Qiu usually manages the family. If I really have to take care of these, I'm afraid I don't know what I need to buy. I was just about to write down what Yang Qiu said when my mother suddenly called me. Son, we have studied your shopping list. Buy more dry goods, such as black fungus, mushrooms, bamboo shoots, etc., which can be stored at room temperature. Also, fruits are indispensable. Canned fruit has too much sugar and preservatives, which is unhealthy for the body. We also thought about the problem of fresh fruits, but they are not durable. Even apples will rot within a month. My mother seemed to know what I was thinking and said, if you are afraid that the fruit will rot, just make it into dried fruit. I sent the method to Yang Qiu on WeChat. You too can take a look and study it later. At this time, I saw Yang Qiu's expression when she was looking at her phone, which was a little weird. When I finished the call and looked over, I found that she was looking at the tutorial on drying dried fruits sent by my mother. The tutorial is indeed a serious tutorial. But the name of this tutorial is making daily fruit snacks for hamsters. The next day, there were still 9 days before the zombie virus broke out. The masters of the decoration company began to enter the house for decoration. Money is really unreasonable. 7 or 8 decoration masters came to the house of more than 100 square meters and began to swing the 80-yo hammer, doang doang doang. While knocking, a master expressed doubts. Boss, I see you two are making bulletproof glass, installing anti-theft guardrails, and installing thick anti-theft doors. Why is it so much like a safe house in the movie? What are you doing? Yes, we are agents, do you think so? Yang Qiu imitated the tone of the decoration master and laughed. Then he rolled his eyes at me and showed a helpless look. Who told us to buy the top floor? My husband is afraid of heights and lacks a sense of security. He feels that he will fall down every day when living in a high place. He also wonders if there will be thieves at night. So he just installed everything at once to save trouble. I have to say that the symphony composed of sledgehammers and electric drills is really scary to listen to. Anyway, there is nothing valuable at home for us to look after, so Yang Qiu and I decided to go out and buy some other supplies first. As soon as we got down from the elevator to the first floor, we heard someone calling us. Little girl, young man, we just moved in. Are you the ones who are decorating the upstairs? Looking at the person in front of me, I was stunned. I know her. She is Grandma Zhang, who lives on the first floor. She lives with her 12-year-old grandson. In the previous life, Yang Qiu and I received a lot of help from them in the early stage of the zombie outbreak. The only hot meal we had was prepared by Grandma Zhang and then delivered to us by her grandson using a drone. But the communication was interrupted later and we lost contact. When we went out to look for food, we found that the door on the first floor of their house was open, and they, one old and one young, had disappeared. I don't know if they went out or. Auntie, did I disturb your rest? Sorry, we will catch up with the deadline as soon as possible in the next few days. Yang Qiu thought that the noise of the renovation was too loud and disturbed others, so he apologized quickly. It's okay. I go to bed early and get up early, it's not a problem. I just saw that you two just moved in, and I happened to come downstairs to say hello. If you need any help in the future, you can also find me. Grandma Zhang waved her hands repeatedly, with a smiling face. Thank you, Auntie. Auntie, the new year is coming soon, so your family should prepare more food and other things. It will be difficult to buy in a while. If there is anything that needs to be moved, you can find me and I will come to help you. I can't tell everyone that the world is coming to an end and zombies are going to break out. Not everyone is my wife or my parents, who believe in me unconditionally. I can only do my best to remind them. Hello, do you have antipyretic drugs in your pharmacy? We also need some anti-inflammatory drugs. My husband has a fever, and I want to buy some medicine. There are too many people in the hospital, and there is no queue. My husband has had a fever for a long time. Yang Qiu helped me walk to the pharmacy. I looked like I was dying and leaned against the wall of the hospital. The whole face was red. Yang Qiu took out the electronic thermometer and handed it to the staff of the pharmacy, looking very anxious. 39.7 degrees Celsius. The staff of the pharmacy glanced at me, hesitated for a moment, took out a box of ibuprofen, and took out a box of amoxicillin, and asked Yin Cho to go to the front desk to pay. After returning to the car with the medicine, Yin Cho immediately took out ice water and applied it directly to my face. He poured some more ice water and wiped my face with a wet tissue, saying as he wiped, "It's okay, it's sweet pepper, it's not that spicy. This trick works, I'll continue to use it at the next pharmacy later. Ibuprofen and amoxicillin are not enough, this stuff is hard currency." I looked aggrieved. "Cold, fever, gastroenteritis, 3 highs, heart pain, I think you're just saying I can't make it through tomorrow. There's no way, now the control of drugs is quite strict, especially anti-inflammatory drugs and antibiotics, almost all of which are classified as prescription drugs." We ran around for almost the whole morning, and went to more than a dozen pharmacies in the city. At first, we could only buy Chinese patent medicines such as Pordilen and Chen Bailor. So, Yang Qiu came up with this idea. The effect is not bad. Listening to what I said, Yang Qiu rolled his eyes at me. What nonsense. It's unlucky to say such things before the virus breaks out. Hurry up and say it. There are about 15 pharmacies left, and our mission for today is complete. Come on, go for it. Me. Amoxicillin, 30 boxes. Cephalosporin, 20 boxes. Ibuprofen sustained release capsules, 20 boxes. Omeprazole, 10 bottles. Dashi, 10 boxes. Enteritis Ning, 20 boxes. Aminophenamine capsules, 20 boxes. Yunnan Baiyao aerosol, 10 boxes. Quick-acting heart-saving pills, 10 bottles. Alcohol, 5 liters, 10 barrels. Gauze, 50 bags. With some scattered band-aids and other things, we almost prepared all the daily medicines. When we got home, the doors, windows and anti-theft nets had been installed by the decoration master. According to the master, the sound insulation cotton of this house will be installed almost tomorrow. The rest of the new house will have to wait until the transfer is completed and the house key is obtained. So the whole afternoon became a large unloading site. The supplies ordered from the supermarket filled the entire second bedroom of the house. And the 2 829 liters and a large 3-door refrigerator ordered from the mall directly occupied half of the living room. Yan Qiu began to send videos to her mother to show off our achievements today. As a result, her mother directly popped up a video. "Hey, girl, come and see what these 2 old men are doing. They are dressed like Mario, I thought they were professional wall pastiers. But look at the bricks, they are crooked like mosaics." On the other side of the video, my father and Yan Qiu's father, both of them looked dusty, and were remodeling the balcony. Look at the way they look, they should be planning to separate a space. After 2 days, when the cement is dry, we can grow some fresh vegetables, which is not bad. But before I finished speaking, I heard my mother's roar. "Chen Tao, you idiot, you bought a chicken and didn't you check whether the cage was closed?" The next second, I saw a little chicken flying to my mother-in-law's head. 4 days before the virus outbreak. The security reinforcement of the 2 houses and the replacement of the anti-theft door of the fire escape have been completed. The sound insulation cotton has also been laid. My dad and his friends were tinkering with the balcony, which gave us a reminder. I don't know when the virus infection will end. Instead of leaving the roof empty, it's better to buy some vegetable and fruit seeds and plant them, so that when the weather gets a little warmer, we can have enough vegetables and other food. It happened that the decoration masters who installed windows and doors for us were still there at the time. I waved my hand and directly transferred 5,000 yen to them, asking them to help build a flower bed on the roof. This is not a difficult job, and it is also considered that the masters took it privately, and they don't have to share it with the boss of the decoration company. So the masters worked very hard and built the small flower bed in less than an afternoon. By the way, they also helped me carry more than a dozen loads of soil and told me that this soil is absolutely fertile for growing flowers. After the cement is dried for a few days, it will be almost ready to plant flowers. Before leaving, I heard that they would not go back home for the new year and would go to other places to take jobs. I mentioned that it was difficult to buy food for the new year, so I asked them to stock up more. I am not a saint, and I cannot save everyone. I can only say that I went to remind them. That afternoon, my wife brought back a lot of express deliveries from the Cainiao station downstairs. They were all vegetable and fruit seeds purchased online in advance, and there were also many flower seeds. "What are you buying these rose and Chinese rose seeds for? Are you going to learn to make flower cakes from Wangang?" I asked puzzled. What I got in return was Yang Qiu's rolling eyes, and he hugged my neck. "Valentine's Day is coming soon, and there's 520, and there's Chinese Valentine's Day, and there's my birthday, and there's my wedding anniversary. What, do you think the end of the world is coming, and you can take this opportunity not to send gifts? No way. These flower seeds are left to you. By the way, if you only send flowers, I might get tired of too many. The rest is up to you." The day before the virus outbreak, I was finishing the final preparations at home. We had almost bought all the supplies we needed, and we later found some more supplies to fill up the entire rental house and the freezer refrigerator. Just in case, I bought a few long-handled fruit knives from the store downstairs, and bought 2 bamboo clothes drying poles, tied them up with hemp ropes, and made a few weapons similar to spears. At this time, Yan Qiu also came up with a courier. Today, she went to the company to complete the resignation procedures and moved all the company's things back home. What is this? Looking at the Square Express box in her hand, I was stunned for a moment. I received all the express deliveries I bought before, and I didn't buy anything later. Your father sent it to you. He said it was the walkie-talkie your mother used in the bank vault before. It has a good signal and strong penetration. They kept one and gave us one, saying that we might need it someday. And this one, what's it called? What receiver? Oh yes, a radio. It said that your great-grandfather bought it for stock trading before. They said that this thing can receive broadcasts, and it might be useful after the zombie outbreak. While talking, Yang Qiu took out 2 brick-like things and placed them on the table. After dinner, Yang Qiu and I moved 2 chairs and leaned on the balcony to watch the night. There's still one night. I sighed. Starting tomorrow, there won't be such a peaceful time. I've been catching up on the novels your dad posted in the family group these days. Maybe the world will change after you're reborn. The butterfly effect, the zombie virus won't break out. Yang Qiu leaned his head on my shoulder and said, That's great, but what about the food and drinks we stocked up? That's easy. Open a small store. You'll be the boss and I'll be the boss's wife. Why go to work? I've had enough of being a social animal. There's no butterfly effect. I've lived my life again, but I don't have the ability to change the world. The day the zombie virus broke out. The video of the rabies patient escaping and biting passers-by instantly became a hot search on major platforms. What was coming still came. I tried my best to contact every friend of mine and sent them the video. Tell them that things are far from as simple as they seem on the surface. However, most of my friends think that I'm too anxious because I read too many weird public accounts. Until things started to get out of control. Until the zombie virus appeared in our city. Until one day later, Yang Qiu witnessed a zombie outbreak in our community. That was also the source of the zombies in our community. From our window, we could see the security booth in the community. The security guard was knocked down by the zombies, and after a few shrill screams, he was drowned in the zombie group. Yang Qiu wanted to scream, but I quickly covered her mouth and quickly closed the curtains in the house. Screams, curses, and strange notes from the zombies. The sound was endless. The owner group was already in a frenzy at this moment. Help me, what on earth is this? I'm hiding at home and I dare not go out. I just saw Xiao Zhang, the property manager downstairs, walking with half of his face drooping and blood all over the floor. There's nothing to eat at home, and we can't get any. What should I do? My husband's company needs them to go to the company in the morning. My husband has already gone out, and his phone is unreachable now. The continuity of the entire society is also gradually collapsing. Husband. After a long time, Yang Qiu gradually came to his senses. At this moment, Yang Qiu looked at the message on his mobile phone with a worried face. When do you think this virus outbreak will end? I gently hugged Yang Qiu in my arms. Whispered softly. It will be fine, everyone will be fine. Our family can get through it safely. Dear citizens, please don't panic. Please believe that the authorities are capable of dealing with emergencies. Please give the authorities some time, the authorities will definitely protect the lives and property of the people. During this period, you must not go out unless necessary. If you need to go out, please be sure to make protective preparations. If there is an emergency at home and you need help, please contact the authorities. The 5th day of the zombie virus, the 3rd day of the outbreak in City A. The official rumor busting finally changed to an admonition. All of a sudden, all TV stations began to scroll these subtitles in turn, and we also received reminders on our mobile phones. And I don't know which smart idea came up with it, but they actually used drones with loudspeakers to swing over the community, constantly shouting the official slogans. Zombies are very sensitive to sound. And the community gate was not closed. Originally, according to observations over the past 2 days, there were only a few zombies outside the community, except for those who were locked inside. But this time, 7 or 8 zombies were attracted into the community by the drone. Moreover, I stood on the rooftop with a telescope and watched for a while. Looking at this situation, there are more than a dozen zombies in the nearby streets, rushing towards the community like a market. If you don't know, you might think that the official is like the ancient up master who made a zombie apocalypse survival guide on my old man's little broken station, and wants to gather the zombies and burn them directly. Although I live on the top floor, the door of the fire escape has been locked by me, and the zombies can't use the elevator card, so there is no big threat for the time being. But as time goes by, no one knows what will happen next. These zombies that are gathering more and more are always a threat to us. Thinking of this, I returned home, got a broom, and returned to the rooftop. Then, I took out the usual way to hit flies and stared at the drone for a long time. Finally, I sank my shi into my donchon, and with a huff, I directly shot the drone down. And this scene happened to be seen by Yang Qiu, who followed behind. Husband. Are you shooting a plane? The 6th day of the zombie virus. The good news is that there is no power outage or network outage yet. The official announcement is still circulating on TV. Let us wait for official rescue. But I know that official rescue is unlikely to come in the near future. There is no news from the neighboring city where the virus first broke out. My dad sent us a video. In addition to saying hello and reporting safety to each other and reminding us to be careful, my dad's main purpose is to show off the greenhouse technology they implemented on their balcony at home. They grow lettuce. This kind of vegetable, which is extremely resistant to freezing in winter, has begun to grow seedlings. As for what we planted, it is still the same as it was 10 days ago. There is no change at all. So much so that my father, who was born in the 80s, mocks the post-10s in the video every day, saying that the post-10s are useless. We post-10s are a wasted generation. At this moment, I can also feel the feeling of the rich and powerful living a life of luxury. At this time, Yang Qiu was cracking melon seeds and watching Waga's videos on his tablet. He planned to take out a young chicken from the freezer to try a new dish in the evening. But in contrast to our family's worry-free food and drink, the community group is already wailing at this moment. Does anyone have food at home? We've run out of food. Help, does anyone have stomach medicine? I ate expired bread yesterday. When will the authorities come to organize rescue? Even if they can't rescue in time, airdropping a wave of supplies is also possible. What's more, before the outbreak of the virus, you wouldn't even dare to think about it. Newly bought sausage, in exchange for 20 kilograms of rice. 3 bottles of 53-degree Fatia Motai, in exchange for 10 kilograms of pork. I'm a strong man, looking for a rich woman to take me in. If you give a lot, men are also fine. Faced with the request for help from the owner group, Yang Qiu and I temporarily chose to pretend not to see it. Although our supplies seem to be a lot, they are not inexhaustible. I don't know when the zombie virus will end. In the Doomsday, it's not only the zombies that are scary, but also the human heart. If we help them now, let alone the families, the supplies consumed are too large, and it's easy to be targeted. I'm not a saint. I added the WeChat of the grandson of Granny Zhang downstairs and left a message for them. Tell them that if they lack anything to eat or use at home, they can come to us, and we have some things to provide. This can be regarded as a way to repay Granny Zhang for giving us a hot meal in the previous life. The 7th day of the zombie virus. Today is New Year's Eve. Although the world is about to end, we still have to celebrate this important traditional festival. Early in the morning, we got up. I went out for a patrol first. Fortunately, although the zombie virus has exploded geometrically, our community is relatively remote and no zombie cluster has formed for the time being. The doors of the safety passages have not been damaged at present. The elevator entrance has been filled with large groceries by us, and it has been directly sealed. There is no sign of passivity for the time being. After the inspection, I started to clean up the house, hanging lanterns, pasting Spring Festival couplets and blessing characters, adding some color to the new year. Yang Qiu also started to get busy in the kitchen, preparing the New Year's Eve dinner. After this period of training, Yang Qiu's cooking skills have made great progress. Although, it was just barely cooked. But it was much better than before. I worked until the evening and managed to make 5 dishes and a soup. But the appearance. What is this dish? I pointed at a plate of black things, and I couldn't tell what it was for a long time. Charcoal grilled chicken. The charcoal is good, but where is the chicken? What are you looking at? Yang Qiu rolled her eyes at me. It is your honor to cook for me, you should kowtow and be grateful. On this year's New Year's Eve, there was no Spring Festival gala on the TV. In previous years, we would rush back to our hometown, but this year, we could only make a video call to our parents and start the cloud dinner mode. Maybe too much pressure has been accumulated in the past few days. Or maybe it was the first time to spend the new year away from his parents. When the video was connected, Yang Qiu's eyes were red. Oh, Qiu, what is this dark thing on the table? Fortunately, the mobile phone that can smell has not been invented in 2035. Xiao Hao, you have suffered a lot during this period. I have to say that Yang Qiu's father's ability to make jokes is first class. This time, Yang Qiu's tears that were about to be held back were directly teased back. Dad, am I your daughter or is he your daughter? Your own daughter is not on your side. Really? At this moment, the atmosphere returned to laughter and joy. In this cloud of drinking and exchanging cups, Yang Qiu and I drank too much and were a little tipsy. After the time was changed, we said Happy New Year to each other with our parents and hung up the video. I was just about to take advantage of this rare time to be affectionate with Yang Qiu. But just as I returned to the room, there was a sudden crackling sound in the corridor. Someone was actually setting off firecrackers. And it was in this building. I burped. I didn't realize anything. This guy is really a talent. He can actually stock up firecrackers in the apocalypse. I always thought that the sound of firecrackers was too loud during the new year. Now, I can feel some popularity. Yang Qiu took over my words. But just after I finished speaking, we looked at each other and looked at each other in surprise. Fuck, this guy is really a talent. Zombies are sound-seeking. At that moment, Yang Qiu and I sobered up. The next second, I rushed to the top floor with a telescope. This fucking thing. From the telescope, the door of the corridor downstairs was not closed. And the sound of firecrackers in the corridor was still incessant at this moment. The zombies' attention began to move directly to our building. There were about 20 or 30 of them scattered around. And our building was close to the road. The access control at the main gate was not closed. If this continued, the zombies outside the community would also be attracted. It would be too late to close the door now. Yang Qiu, ask the WeChat group who is so smart and ask them to quickly put out the firecrackers. The sound of the firecrackers is too loud, and the zombies are all attracted here. I went back to the house and basically turned off all the lights in the room. Then I took out my homemade weapons and leaned against the huge wall of the safe passage nervously. No one replied to me. Young Chio looked at his phone for a while and replied to me. At this moment, the sound of firecrackers suddenly increased. Obviously, these guys didn't know whether to live or die and set off another firecracker. Damn, they are looking for death. I cursed inwardly. Although the overall security measures have been strengthened and the anti-theft door has been replaced with a thicker one. But I still dare not let down my guard. Are there any zombies coming in? At this moment, it was young Chio who was holding a telescope, lifting a small corner of the curtain and observing the situation outside the building. It's too dark outside, I can't see it. Then we can only wait. After about 5 or 6 minutes, the sound of firecrackers in the corridor finally stopped, and it was dead silent again. At this time, young Chio and I finally breathed a sigh of relief. MMP, in my previous life, why didn't I remember that there was such a smart person living downstairs? And just when we relaxed our vigilance and were about to go back to the room, a woman's scream suddenly sounded downstairs, which made us shudder. Then, a man's roar with fear came from the corridor. Oh my god, this thing is coming up. What a bad idea you came up with, fucking firecrackers. Stop talking, Chen Ya was bitten, let's go to the safe passage and run up quickly. From the sound, it should be 2 people, and the floor should be not far from us. The empty corridor, the sound seems very loud. At this moment, the nerves of the 2 of us became tense again. Damn, these 2 people are really Crouching Dragon and Phoenix. The zombies are here, and the sound is still so loud, as if they are afraid that the zombies can't find people. After a while, I heard the footsteps of these 2 people. And behind them, there are sparse footsteps, and low and weird roars. Fuck. How can our community, one building, have 2 people like Crouching Dragon and Phoenix? Be careful, you can't open the door later, what are you doing? I turned around and reminded Yang Xiu. If it was just 1 or 2 zombies, it would be fine, but from the sound alone, it was almost obvious. There were at least 7 or 8 zombies pouring into this building. This was definitely not something the 2 of us could handle. Besides, none of us knew if they were scratched or bitten by zombies. In the apocalypse, the most terrifying thing was still people. But as soon as I turned around and saw Yang Chio's behavior, I was stunned. She took out a bottle of water of life from somewhere, which she had stuffed with cotton. And in the other hand, she had already picked up a lighter. SHH, keep your voice down, we have to pretend that there is no one on this floor. This is for use when we have no choice. I learned it from watching a movie. If it doesn't work, burn him to death. I was a little speechless after what I said to Yang Chio. At this time, the footsteps in the safe passage were getting closer and closer. I had locked the door in advance, and the homemade spear in my hand was also pointed at the door. Is there anyone? Can you open the door? Please, please open the door. There are zombies behind, the zombies are coming. Save me, is there anyone? I have money, we are very rich. Please, as long as someone comes to open the door, the Mercedes parked downstairs will be yours. About half a minute later, a man's plea came from outside the door. Then he kept slapping the security door. The door handle outside the house was also twisted by him. Please, save us. The voice outside the house was desperate. Young Chio and I looked at each other and did not move. The result of opening the door rashly would only put both of us in. Time passed by minute, until I heard the sound of the zombies. And the howling of one of the men. Then, there was a second sound. When the fingernails scratched the door, the sound was extremely harsh. Then, I heard the sound of zombies eating. And the wailing of the 2 men became lower and lower. We can't save them. The 8th day of the zombie virus outbreak. Spring Festival. Yang Chio and I listened to the wall all night. Until the dawn, there was some sunlight, and there was no other movement outside the house. At this moment, we retreated back to the room. At this time, I took out the drone I bought before and released it. There are windows in the safe passage, just in time to see what is happening in the corridor. When the drone's picture was transmitted, even though I had experienced the end of the world in 2 lives, I was still frightened by what I saw. There was blood and minced meat all over the floor. A man's body with half of his head gnawed was stuck on the handrail in the middle of the building. There were 3 zombies wandering aimlessly on our floor and the corridor below. One of them was standing at our door. Although there are not many of them, they are still a threat to us. We must lead them downstairs. Use the noise of the drone. I drove the drone and flew directly along the window in the corridor towards the zombie at the door. The drone was in front of the zombie at 0 distance. The appearance of the zombie was clearly photographed. And the zombie was also attracted by the drone and directly waved a claw to hit the drone. The strong sense of substitution almost made me drop my phone on the ground. I drove the drone slowly and leisurely, driving down the corridor, and led the zombies upstairs downstairs little by little. When I drove to the 24th floor, I saw firecracker debris all over the floor. And a female zombie in pajamas was gnawing on the body of a cat. It seems that this should be the woman bitten by the zombie last night. And I have no impression of this woman in my previous life. My original intention was to lead all the zombies out of the corridor. But it was my first time using a drone, so I made some mistakes. When it flew to the 15th floor, the drone hit the wall directly. Then it fell out of the window uncontrollably. At this time, 7 or 8 zombies attracted by the drone rushed to the window in an instant. Then I stood in front of the windowsill in the room and saw 2 or 3 zombies falling down directly. Huh. I breathed a sigh of relief. The threat at the door of my house was temporarily resolved. At this time, my phone vibrated. I opened it and saw that Yen Qiu had sent me a packaged zip file. What is this? I asked. Your dad sent me a video about unlimited fighting. After what happened last night, I've learned my lesson. We can't just run away when facing zombies. So I decided that starting today, we'll both learn this, just in case. Me. At this moment, I clicked on the file sent by Ying Qiu. A bunch of videos and a TXT document appeared inside. The name of the video is Chen Hegao's fighting tutorial. And the name of the document is Criminal Law. The 14th day of the zombie virus outbreak. There is no deviation from my memory. The power is out. But our power supply has been connected to the solar panels installed on the roof. And now the base station seems to be intact and the network is still usable. As for water, we have stored a lot. So the power outage does not have a big impact on our lives for the time being. Early in the morning, Yang Qiu came down from the rooftop, wrapped in 3 layers of clothes like a polar bear. This weather is so weird. It's almost spring, but it's getting colder and colder. I just went up to take a look at the flowers we planted. They haven't even sprouted yet. Really? It looks like there won't be any Valentine's Day gifts. Yan Qiu grumbled, breathing out quickly and rubbing his hands. I frowned slightly. This was the same situation in my previous life. I don't know if it's a derivative effect of the end of the world, but the weather is getting colder and colder. It's okay in the house. There are 5 solar panels supporting it, and the air conditioner at home is fully turned on, so it's not a big problem. But when we went out, the temperature outside was below 0. And now the power was cut off again, and I don't know how the people in the community will survive. It's the 29th day of the zombie virus outbreak. The temperature is still quite cold. There is no official news. It's already the beginning of March. City A actually snowed all night last night. The snow was very thick. You know, City S hasn't had such a heavy snowfall for nearly 10 years. When we woke up early in the morning, it was already white outside. And sure enough, when we went up to the rooftop wrapped up thickly, the simple plastic greenhouse we made with plastic wrap had already collapsed under the snow. The lettuce that had just sprouted inside was also crushed. We were desperate. My parents' friends' circle started to show videos of making dumplings. Our vegetable growing business was only halfway started when it collapsed. When Yang Qiu sent the video of the destroyed vegetable garden to the family group to ask for comfort, he was indeed ridiculed by his father, a man born in the 1980s. Humph, technology is so advanced now, why can't we invent online cloud vegetable stealing technology? Then there is no need to bother. Is less than is greater than. Yang Qiu looked indignant. Little girl, you are still too young. At this moment, my father also said. You haven't experienced the era of Happy Farm, QQ Farm, and Sesame Forest. You still don't know what the social beating is. Compared with online vegetable stealing, you are still a little too young. With a proud face. Looking at the few lines of words my father typed. Yang Qiu and I stared at each other. This should be considered a generation gap, right? At this time, our attention was suddenly focused on the zombies downstairs. There is still a big difference between zombies and humans. It seems that they are not affected by the heavy snow at all, and they are still moving freely and wandering aimlessly below. It seems that the weather has little impact on zombies. At this time, Yang Qiu didn't know what he was thinking. He gathered up a snowball and threw it directly at the zombie downstairs. With a bang, the snowball hit the ground, and the zombie's attention was quickly attracted. At this time, Yang Qiu also gathered up the second snowball. This time, Yang Qiu accurately threw the snowball on the zombie's head. Zombies have no sense of pain, and even if something hits them, they will not react at all. So, this silent snowball fight began. From the target being zombies to throwing snowballs at each other between the two of us. Until the end, after building 2 snowmen on the rooftop, we were exhausted and lay down on the snow. Looking at the snowflakes still floating in the sky, Yang Qiu said. I don't know, when the snow melts, will this virus end? I hugged Yang Qiu in my arms. Yes, it will be over soon. Everything will return to normal. The idea is beautiful, but the reality is cruel. The 35th day of the zombie virus outbreak. The internet is disconnected. To be precise, there is no signal. Originally, Yang Qiu was using the video to show my mother her new dish black fungus stew. But suddenly, the video was disconnected. At first, we thought it was because of the bad signal. We even changed the place on purpose, but there was no signal. Turn the phone on and off, and turn on the flight mode. We tried almost everything. But the result was still the same. The internet disconnection means that we have lost the only way to contact our parents. Similarly, we have lost the way to communicate with the outside world. When Yang Qiu learned the news, he was a little collapsed. My eyes were red. The only hope during this period was to have some contact with my parents. And to know that they were safe. In fact, we were prepared. The base station could not be running all the time. Especially after the power outage, we did not think that the base station could last so long. But when this moment came, no one felt good. I sorted out my emotions and sat next to Yang Qiu. I imitated my father's tone and began to say, "Don't worry about them, they have much more life experience than us. What about the typhoon that happens once in 100 years, the snow disaster that happens once in 1,000 years, the earthquake that happens once in 10,000 years, etc., aren't they still alive and well?" I was wondering if they would think that they would not be able to survive without us. So, we have to live every day well in the future. After the virus is over, let those old men and women see that we can still live comfortably without them. Puff. Yang Qiu was amused by what I said. He laughed, then took out his mobile phone and turned on the recording. "Then please repeat what you just said, Mr. Chen. When the time comes, I will play it for those old men and women you mentioned." The 44th day of the zombie virus outbreak. It was still extremely cold. That night, when I quietly opened the curtains and planned to observe the situation in the community. Downstairs, a very strong light suddenly flashed my eyes. Then I saw a car driving into the community. There is a car. Is it a survivor from another community? Or did the authorities send people to rescue people? At that time, my subconscious reaction was to pick up the telescope beside me and start looking in the direction of the car lights. In the building opposite, I actually saw someone running out of the corridor. 4 or 5 people, young and old, seemed to be from the same family. And they were running towards an SUV parked next to the building. Although it was too far away and the bulletproof glass made it impossible to hear any sound. But you can see that there is a man sitting in the SUV, waving his hands at the group of people. But the sound of the car was so loud that it directly attracted all the zombies wandering around the building. So seeing that there was an old man in the crowd, he really couldn't run. And the zombies were getting closer and closer, and the man in the car also got out of the car. I looked at the paper shells wrapped around my body, holding something similar to a clothesline in my hand, and directly protected my family. Facing the approaching zombies, I kept waving the clothesline in my hand to beat them back. At that moment, I couldn't help but sweat in my hands. "Hurry up, the zombies on the right are coming too." At this time, Yang Qiu ran over without knowing when. Like me, he was holding a telescope and watching the scene in front of him. Our hearts were in our throats. But fortunately, the middle-aged man looked strong. After kicking down a zombie that tried to approach, his family all ran into the car at this moment. Then he quickly got into the driver's cabin and stepped on the door. The 2 zombies that were originally blocking the car were directly knocked away. And the car drove out smoothly. Until then, Yang Qiu and I breathed a sigh of relief. Judging from the situation, the family must have run out of food. Otherwise, they would not have taken such a big risk and fled with their family at night. Fortunately, our family had stockpiled so much goods in advance. So there was no such trouble. At that time, I remembered the ending of my previous life. Although it has become a thing of the past, that scene is still a nightmare that I still remember. However, the development of this matter seems to be different from what we thought. Yang Qiu and I observed on the windowsill several times. That night, 4 or 5 families chose to flee. And basically, they were all families, young and old. However, many of them were not as lucky as the first family, who escaped in one piece. Because of the loud noise, the zombies gathered more and more. Many people were bitten by zombies and became new zombies. Not many people escaped. This situation is rare. At least this is the first time since the zombie outbreak. Before, some people took advantage of the night to enter and exit the community, but they were scattered and went out to find food. But there were so many people and such a big noise, which was obviously not in line with common sense. It was as if they had an agreement. But now, the electricity is gone, the communication is gone, and the official drones have not come. What on earth are they going to do? Could it be that they received some news through this? When I was puzzled, Yang Qiu appeared with my great-grandfather's brick radio. Is this possible? At that time, I was still very skeptical about this. I just wanted to give it a try, so I started to tinker with it. After thinking about it for more than half an hour, I finally figured out how to turn it on. There was actually an intermittent official voice coming from the radio. Then, the voice became clearer and clearer. "Dear citizens, this is the official from City A. Now an emergency notice, because City A has been severely damaged, the power and communication equipment have been damaged. The officials from City A have no choice but to evacuate City A. A full base has been established in the sports center of City B, and there is sufficient food and water supply. Please inform your relatives and friends as much as possible, and go to the safe base in City B while protecting your own safety. Notify again. There really is a safe base." Hearing this news, Yang Qiu and I looked at each other. No wonder most of the people who escaped last night were families with elderly people at home. Radio broadcasting has been abandoned for a long time. Especially radios, which are almost only available to people of the grandfather generation. Shall we go? The 52nd day of the zombie outbreak. We did not choose to go to the official safe base in City B. First, because we have enough food and electricity. Second, there are too many uncertain factors on the road. Since this broadcast was issued, it has been circulating 24 hours a day. Many people fled the community one after another, but many people still failed to escape. In addition, the noise was really too loud. There are at least hundreds of zombies wandering in the community now. The risk is too high. On the premise of ensuring the safety of the house, the food we have currently stored can sustain us for more than a year without leaving the house. However, no one can predict which will come first, tomorrow or an accident. When we were full of confidence and thought we could still be free and easy in the Doomsday, something happened. We thought of fire prevention, theft prevention and zombie prevention. But what we didn't expect was that our house was flooded. The water pipes at home are broken. They burst due to freezing. We had never considered this before. When Young Chio and I came back from the top floor and found out, it was too late. The whole house had become a vast expanse of water. The bottoms of many boxes of previously stored supplies had been soaked and rotten, and they were floating on top. The floor drains in the bathroom and balcony were tightly blocked by soaked cartons. It was difficult for the water to go down. The whole house was also cut off from electricity because some sockets were flooded. Young Chio and I tried to turn off several water valves in the house, but it was no use. The burst water pipes were still gushing out. But the main valve of the tap water was at the corner on the first floor. Young Chio and I hesitated. The number of zombies in the community has increased significantly recently. If you go down rashly, the risk is also very high. But if you don't go down. Although most of the supplies we stockpiled were sealed in outer packaging or canned goods, there was no need to worry about contamination. But the water level was still rising, and the drainage speed was quite slow. In addition, the extreme cold weather had not yet passed. With the water in the house and no electricity, it was hard to say how long we could last. No, your wrap is too thin and it will be easily torn. Wrap a few more rounds of tape around your waist, be careful that this thing will break. Young Chio and I finally made up our minds to go downstairs. The two of us wrapped ourselves tightly with thick cotton clothes in 3 layers inside and outside. There were several rounds of paper boxes and tape wrapped around the clothes. There were 2 neck pillows hanging on the neck, tied together with tape. I found an electric bike helmet from many years ago and put it on my head. Although it looked a lot more bloated and inconvenient to move. Fortunately, these zombies have not evolved like in novels or movies. For now, the action is still slow. We chose to go out at night. Although the vision will be affected, the same is true for zombies. When we moved the debris piled at the door and opened the door of the safety passage, an extremely strong smell of blood hit us. The half body of the man was still stuck in the corridor. Yan Chio instinctively took 2 steps back. I protected Yan Chio behind me. Because of the power outage, the whole corridor was dark. And the zombies themselves are phototropic, so we can only say that we can walk down slowly with the night light coming through the window. In fact, it was okay at the beginning. Some zombies upstairs were led down by me with drones before, so they were relatively safe. But when we went down to the 15th floor, we began to hear some movement. The low roar of zombies and the sound of their walking. It sounds like there are quite a lot of them. This forced us to slow down and hold our breath. But when we reached the 12th floor, we stopped. We thought that the doors of the safety passages were all closed and there wouldn't be too many zombies in the corridor. But there were 7 or 8 zombies gathered at the corner of the corridor. They blocked our way. My eyelids twitched wildly and I looked at the door of the safety passage next to me. There was no way, I could only take a gamble. I motioned Young Chio to step back. At this time, I took out my mobile phone and slowly pushed open the door next to me. I turned on the music in the phone and then threw it directly into the building. The huge sound of music directly attracted all the attention of the zombies. We both held our breath, and under the cover of the music, we quickly moved downstairs along the wall. But before we took a few steps, I felt something slippery under my feet. Looking again, I actually stepped on a zombie with only half of its body left. And one of his hands grabbed Yan Chio's ankle. At this time, Yan Chio couldn't hold back any longer. He screamed. Then my feet slipped, and we both rolled down the stairs. And the flashlight I carried with me was also thrown away at this time. The whole corridor was illuminated in an instant. Run. At that moment, we couldn't think of anything else. It was obvious that the zombies had discovered us. There was no point in hiding. At this moment, I could only pull up Yan Chio quickly and roar. The zombies downstairs were also attracted by our voices. I could clearly hear the sound of their footsteps going upstairs. We had no choice but to go all out. I propped up the weapon I made with bamboo poles and placed it in front of me. Then Young Chio and I quickly moved downstairs. Zombies kept coming up from upstairs. Young Chio also burst out with absolute fighting power at this critical moment. Holding a frying pan in her hand, she smashed it directly on the zombies' heads. In a short period of time, she actually hit 3 or 4 zombies. We finally escaped from the corridor. But looking at the 20 or 30 zombies chasing behind us, we knew that we couldn't go home. Although heavy clothes can improve defense, they also cause a lot of inconvenience for our movement. At the same time, the previous wave also consumed a lot of our physical strength. At that time, we already felt that we were in a stage of exhaustion. We have to find a place to hide first. The noise was really too loud. There were only 20 or 30 zombies just now, but in a blink of an eye, there was a tendency to double. In addition, there are many roads in the community, which are connected in all directions. These zombies are also pouring in from all directions. There. At this moment, Yan Qiu suddenly pointed with her hand. In the direction of her finger, there was a half-open convenience store. The convenience store was not big. I took a flashlight and shone it inside, but it seemed that I didn't see anyone or zombies. But I didn't bother to check it carefully. Yan Qiu and I quickly ran towards the convenience store. Finally, we escaped before the zombies caught up with us. Then, he closed the glass door and stuck the bamboo pole in his hand horizontally on it. Huh. Just when I wanted to take a breath, I heard a bang and something seemed to fall. And then, Yan Qiu's scream came over. There was a zombie in the convenience store. He pounced on Yan Qiu. The huge difference in size made Yan Qiu, who was pressed under him, unable to move. Damn it, you dare to touch my wife. At that time, I didn't care about anything else. I rushed up directly and flipped the zombie to the ground. Then I rode on him, grabbed something on the ground, and smashed it on the zombie's head. 1, 2. I couldn't count how many times I hit it. I could only feel that my body was splashed with blood. Until the zombie stopped moving. This is my first time to kill a person. Husband, it's all my fault. Do you think we will die here? Crowmouth, don't talk nonsense. Your husband is a great man who has been reborn. How could he easily give up his life here? We huddled in the corner of the convenience store. We watched the zombies behind the glass door nervously. This time there was really no way out. Yan Qiu and I ran all over the convenience store and didn't find the back door. In other words, that glass door was our only way out. At this moment, there were at least 20 or 30 zombies gathered in front of the door, squeezing the glass door crazily. Although I said that there was no problem, my heart almost fell to the bottom at this moment. This door can't hold for long. The only good news is that we are indeed covered with heavy armor buffs. A simple check before showed that the cardboard tied to our bodies had been bitten through several holes. But fortunately, there were clothes blocking it, so we were not injured. Whatever you fear, it will come true. We rested for less than 10 minutes, and while we were still thinking about what to do, I heard a click sound, and the glass door of the convenience store cracked. At that moment, I stood up directly. I blocked Yan Qiu on myself. In the last life, I didn't protect her well. Then in this life, it's my turn to risk my life. Just when I had made up my mind to die, suddenly a sound came from somewhere in the house. Hey, girl, where are you? Why are you not at home? The voice was from Yan Qiu's father. And the source of the sound was in her bag. That wireless intercom. Hello, Dad? That day, I saw the grace of 2 old men. Outside the convenience store, first a car horn sounded. The high-pitched horn sound directly attracted the attention of all the zombies. Then, I saw a scene that I still remember. My dad was driving a modified pickup truck, while Yan Qiu's dad was standing on the trunk of the pickup truck. He was wearing a chainmail made of iron chains all over his body. Next to him, there were 3 huge liquefied gas tanks. And Yan Qiu's dad was holding a flamethrower that looked like the one used to burn pig hair in the countryside. When my dad honked the horn to attract the zombies to the side of the car, my father-in-law directly opened the safety valve on the liquefied gas tank. At that moment, a huge flame ignited and sprayed towards the zombies. Yo-hoo! The 2 old men shouted at the same time, and then I heard my father-in-law's voice, have I played CFS Biochemical Crisis for so many years in vain? If I had found a Gatling gun, I would have shot you, a bunch of simple-minded zombies. Justice from heaven. For the tribe. Dalmatia. The next second, the pickup truck started, attracting the zombies to rush forward. Then, I heard my father-in-law's curse. Old Chun, did you buy this driver's license? You almost burned my hair. That night, the whole community was filled with the smell of barbecue. I say, you young people now, without your parents, what are you going to do in the future, really? The 54th day of the zombie outbreak. My family finally returned to normal. My dad and father-in-law fixed the burst water pipe directly. My mom and mother-in-law started to clean the room that was flooded. The electricity was restored in the house. Mom, why are you here? Finally, we can eat the hot food made by my mother-in-law. At this moment, Yan Qiu and I are eating a lot. We finally have time to ask the questions in our hearts. It's your dad and his family. They found out that the internet was down and they couldn't contact you, so they were worried. They thought that you two were not very reliable since you were young, and something must have happened, so they came here. Don't think that those 2 old men look carefree. They were more worried than us before. It's a good thing that we made it in time, otherwise, who knows what would have happened. My mother-in-law had just finished speaking when my dad's head came over. What are you afraid of? At most, you and be reborn again. My son Chen Hao has the potential to be an emperor. It's just that his comprehension is too poor. He has been reborn once, and he almost killed himself. The 87th day of the zombie virus outbreak. The weather finally started to warm up. This wave of weird weather lasted until April. Many plants on the roadside were also frozen to death. Yan Qiuzhong, my mother and my mother-in-law rebuilt a greenhouse on the rooftop, planning to plant some more vegetables. During this period, in addition to canned vegetables, we ate the radishes and potatoes that my mother and her family had grown in their hometown every day, and they ate them until they were stupid. I followed the 2 old men in my family, fully armed, and prepared to clean up the corridor near our door. The weather warmed up, and there were still zombies and corpses and minced meat gnawed by zombies in the corridor. It was already beginning to emit a faint odor. If not handled in time, it is easy to breed bacteria and eventually lead to the outbreak of plague. However, these 2 old men looked down on people to some extent. My father-in-law walked in front with a small liquefied gas tank on his back. And my father, holding my homemade spear, was at the rear. As for me, I held a spray bottle of Dettol in my hand and sprayed wherever I went. In a beautiful name, the most important job was entrusted to me. I must not disappoint the expectations of the organization. The 135th day of the zombie virus outbreak. There is a new member in our family, an orange cat. I don't know how it escaped the hunting of so many zombies and appeared on the rooftop of my house. When we found it, the cat was stealing the salted fish that my mother hung on the rooftop. It has a skinny body, but it is quite strong. When it saw me, it dragged the salted fish that was 2 or 3 times bigger than its body and was ready to run away. Fortunately, I was quick-witted and picked up the salted fish. But the cat refused to let go and just hung on the salted fish. I took it back home directly. I thought it was a wild cat. It should run away quickly after entering my house. But my mother thought it was pitiful and gave it a sausage. But the result was that it actually stayed in my house. It is not fierce, noisy, or home-destroying. You can pet it, hug it, and kiss it. They lived a life of having everything they wanted without shame. My father looked at the big orange dog that weighed a pound a day and muttered something to himself. Fortunately, it looks like it hasn't been harmed by building no. 3. The 168th day of the zombie virus outbreak. After the rapid outbreak some time ago, the zombies in the community have gradually stabilized. The zombie tide in the novel did not break out. Nor did it evolve. The 2 old men in our family have even started to name the zombies that can be seen with the naked eye. Downstairs opposite, the zombie that dragged half of its body and crawled slowly could not be called. The zombie that wandered around the lawn next to it every day could not be called away. And the zombie that was not wearing clothes and strolled around the community was directly named Shameless. They even set up a chessboard and started gambling. If anyone loses, go downstairs and put on some clothes. Naked running in the neighborhood is too eye-catching. Fortunately, my mother and mother-in-law put down their arrogance with a combination of punches. This day was the same as usual. Yan Chio and I were strolling on the rooftop with Daji in our arms. Suddenly, there was a buzzing sound in my ears. I subconsciously cast my eyes towards the place where the sound came from. Then, a group of familiar things appeared in front of me. Drone. I was stunned. Where did so many drones come from? There were official flags on them. I was stunned. When the drone approached, I clearly saw the pattern on the drone. It was the national flag. At this time, the drone that had already flown over the community suddenly made a sound. Dear citizens, this is the official of City A. We are very happy to meet again. Here, we have an important thing to announce. The official has not given up the country, nor has it given up City A. The army has also been assembled and started to control and clean up the infected. The vaccine for this unexplained virus has also been successfully developed. In 2 hours, the official of City A will cover the entire sky of City A and deliver vaccines and supplies. Everyone can do what they can. Also ask capable citizens to help the elderly, weak, women and children around them, and everyone will overcome the difficulties together. The cold winter has dissipated, and the warm spring will eventually come. I look forward to meeting you again in the near future. Dear citizens, thank you for your hard work. The 169th day of the zombie virus outbreak. Our whole family has completed the vaccination. The 176th day of the zombie virus outbreak. Bang. At night. First, there was a loud sound, similar to something exploding. Then, not long after, there was a rapid knock on the door of the safety passage outside the house. After staying in this environment for a long time, our family's spirit has actually been in a tense state. We subconsciously picked up the weapons in our hands. No one made any movement. All eyes looked at the door of the safety passage with a little vigilance. Hello, is anyone there? A man's voice came from outside the house. We are soldiers, and we are ordered to protect your temporary evacuation. Excuse me, is there anyone there? No one of us answered. Although some time ago, the officials of City A just announced that they would organize soldiers to rescue. But the Doomsday situation is unpredictable. Being cautious is the first priority. Yeung Cho walked to the window quietly and slightly opened the curtains. Then he looked at me and nodded. After getting Yeung Cho's affirmative answer, we finally let go of our vigilance. Slowly opened the locked door. What came into view were several soldiers in uniforms with live ammunition. They looked at us. Then they saluted. Hello, comrade, we are here to rescue City A under the official order of City A. At present, all the infected people in the streets of your community have been cleared. You are safe. I will take the liberty to conduct a physical examination on you later to determine whether you are close contacts of the infected. If there is anything wrong, please forgive me. When we saw these soldiers, at this moment, our bodies were trembling slightly. For half a year, we had almost no face-to-face communication with other people. The words "you are safe" directly touched the softest part of my heart. As we slowly walked down the stairs and walked out of the building of the community. It was already dawn. Other people came out from other buildings in the community. Some were tired, so many people carrying heavy burdens. At this moment, in the sky, a red sun slowly rose. The big orange in Yen Chou's arms stretched lazily. Meow too.